What we're doing in this lesson is putting together the components of a practical communication strategy, an update to your customers about your business. Now, whether you have a brick and mortar store or you're already doing business online, we're going to cover 4 different components to updating customers immediately if you haven't already, and something different for number 5. We'll cover the status of the business, the hours of operation, how to talk about potential pivots in your business model. We'll cover primary and secondary calls to action, and number 5, why is it different? We'll talk about where to update customers with this information. And this is similar for all businesses. In the coming days, we're going to be adding tutorials for setting up a lot of the specifics here. So while all of these might not apply to 100% of businesses, chances are at least 3 of them are relevant to yours right now. And this is a high-level overview of communicating to your customers in the short term. So let's start with the status of the business. This is the biggest part, and you may have already communicated this. But if you haven't, here's what's critical. Are you open? Are you closed? What's changed? And that's the most important thing in your communication strategy right now, to indicate if you're still open, if you're not, and if there's been a change to the way you're doing business. That's important. But here's the thing. It's just as important to indicate if there hasn't been a change in your business. And here's why. In either case, if you're open or closed or something in between, things can be a bit confusing to a lot of people right now. A lot of people are wondering, is that business open? And a lot of businesses on a lot of different platforms haven't updated customers regarding the status of their business. So a lot of people are left guessing. This isn't just brick and mortar. It's not just retail or food or lawyers or doctors or design firms or major agencies or Apple or Google or Greamer.
I'm here remotely.
This is everyone. Customers need to know, and a lot of them want to know, what is the status of your business? 3 examples here. This part can just be a sentence. We're still open and happy to serve our loyal customers remotely. Or, in light of the current climate, we're presently closed for on-site dining. Or, our studio is closed for the time being. And we're not going to leave it like this, and any of these can be paired with much more specific messaging, but that's the first part. Communicate to your customers what's going on. That leads us to part 2. If you have normal business hours, if you're normally open from 9 to 6 and you're still open, that's important to communicate. But if you've changed your hours, or if you're no longer operating on a normal schedule, a lot of businesses are going through that kind of transition right now, and that's okay. Let people know. We're still open from 9 to 5. We're currently open for takeout and delivery only between 5 and 9 p.m. Or we're excited to share our new online hours soon. So, what are your updated hours? Is it something variable? Sometimes even saying we're doing our best to respond to customers as soon as we can and we appreciate your patience, or even we're figuring things out, that can go a long way, especially if your business is generally one that more immediately responds, but the situation now doesn't allow you or your team to respond as quickly or fully. And updating your hours and your availability and confirming them, even if they haven't changed, can really move the needle and instill a sense of confidence in your customers. And we have specific tutorials coming out that cover this in even more detail, so if you haven't already, check out the full course we're updating regularly, always free on Webflow University. But that's the second one, updating your hours of operation. Next is the pivot. This one's huge. If you're still open, or even if you've temporarily closed, but you're considering a shift in focus or a new way to operate your product or your service, what's the status of that? Sometimes you might not want to communicate this right away, but a lot of times sharing your plans, like, and we're taking calls and online orders, or we're open for takeout or delivery, or we're working on setting up remote classes, that can be a great move in terms of opening a line of communication with your customers. Omid wrote an incredible blog post that shows different ways to market a local service business online. Definitely worth reading if you haven't read that yet, and we've added a link to that post in the description. But restaurants are a good example. Local restaurants, a lot of them are pivoting to takeout and delivery only models. But the long-term benefits of this kind of pivot are vast. Because down the road, many businesses, a lot of people can reopen in a stronger position because they've invested in pivots or expansions that they weren't covering, that their business didn't include before. Now, marketing your business is one thing, and we'll get into that over the next several days and weeks, but sometimes a pivot isn't feasible. A lot of businesses are still exploring options, and sometimes options aren't available. And that's okay when it comes to communication. Communicating to your customers that you're exploring opportunities, or even if you're not able to continue business for now, that's fine. Any update is often better than no update. And that leads us to the call to action. What do you want people to do? A lot of businesses right now are successfully listing multiple calls to action, and that can work. But what's your primary call to action? What's the main thing you're driving at? What do you want your customers to do? Take a look at our products online. Place an order now on Uber Eats. Sign up to our newsletter to get updates as soon as we have them. These types of calls to action can work well, but like we mentioned, now more than ever, businesses are offering secondary calls to action. A secondary call to action can be just as impactful and gives customers a second option if they're not interested or they're unable to pursue your first call to action. Good examples right now are if you're interested in purchasing gift cards, they're available here. Or sign up for a membership, or pre-order a book, support our business on GoFundMe, make a PayPal contribution, support me on Patreon, follow us for updates on Instagram, attend our online event, email us with questions, schedule a consultation. These can be high impact. Now, can any of those last ones serve as the primary call to action? Sure. Can you have 3 or 4 calls to action? Of course. The idea here is that you give your current customers and your potential customers the ability to take action, whether it's a service you offer or a product you sell or just directly supporting your business. But that's primary and secondary calls to action. And finally, once you get your messaging down, where do you update? Here's a consideration. Not everyone's on Facebook.
Actually, I saw a graph and it's the most popular.
Facebook is important. Instagram, Google My Business. This is what lets you update your hours online for Google searches, Google Maps. And we'll be creating specific tutorials in the coming days that show how to set up and post on each of these platforms. But if you have a retail or restaurant or office presence, it's also a great idea to post a printout or a sign that not only updates people with your messaging, but includes clear calls to action so they can get in touch or otherwise interact with your business. Of course, this might not be practical quite yet, and that's okay. If you're going to do something like this in person, respect government regulations, listen to health officials, and of course, please stay safe. But there are a ton of other options too, like updating your website. If you have a mailing list or even a newsletter, you can send updates through those. The other great thing that's going on, and this is incredible, there are sites popping up everywhere that serve as directories for local businesses that are impacted by the current climate. Finding those and getting on those lists, or even creating your own directory for your own community, this can be really impactful for local businesses of all types. And what we'll be doing in the next part of this course is adapting a modern web design with these kinds of considerations. If you already have a site and you can go in and make these updates, if you can update your customers and you haven't already, now is the time to do that. But that's it. We covered a model here for updating your customers, communicating the status of the business, your hours of operation, any potential pivots in your business model, whether they're short-term or long-term. We covered primary and secondary calls to action, and we talked about some of the different ways to communicate these things to others. There's plenty more coming, but for now, that's starting a communication strategy for your business's customers.